I've been a sex worker for 14 years. I've seen a lot of shit rise and fall. I'm tired because everybody uses sex workers as a token. Oh, come here and, we'll utilize your body to promote this because we're fighting for our rights. America's on the last line of defense, blah, 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 blah. I'm tired of the bullshit, to be honest with you. You're telling me 7 million people can show up at the No Kings protest, but 7 million people can't show up for Trey Reed?
Hello and welcome to Power Beyond Pride, a weekly queer change-making podcast bringing you voices and ideas across our fierce and fabulous spectrum to transform our world. I am Mattie Bynum, the hostess with the mostest and typically the loudest person in the room, whether it's laughing, talking, or just standing still. My presence alone is heard by all. And I am here today with my amazing co-host.
Hi. And I am Shawn, Aaron, he, him, his, and I am a nonprofit leader and also a podcaster. We are your co-hosts on today's Queercast journey, and we are delighted to have Miss May. Welcome, Miss May.
Hello. I'm Miss May. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the co-founder and executive director of Decrim 305, servicing the community in more ways than one.
Well, that is wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. We have you. So I want to say thank you for allowing us to have you on the show today. So you actually brought up the first thing I wanted to talk to you about was Decrim 305. So can you give us more information about the organization? Tell our viewers how it got started.
Yeah. So we started in December of 2020 with our very first Slut Walk. Myself and my co-founder, Johnny Quest, we were very active during the George Floyd protests, during the Black Lives Matter movement. My co-founder is a gay Black man. And so he was at the forefront of everything in Miami. If you Google him, his space is everywhere. Him and I were both escorts, and we were chatting, and we were kind of like, sex work. Everybody seems to be on this sort of intersection conversation. Everybody's talking about, how this issue touches so many other things. Maybe this is the time to talk about sex work and how we can bring it to the forefront. And so we brought it to the group that we were organizing with at the time. And we kind of got overall apathy, was the sentiment that we received. It was kind of like, oh, yeah, not the time, not the place, not right now. And we were sort of like, well, then when is it the time? When is it the place? Because that's what every other marginalized group had to hear. So, and, Black sex workers are at the forefront of this movement. We, like my sisters are pulling cash. My Black trans sisters are pulling cash out of their pockets, bailing people out. And you're telling them it's not the time or the place. Okay. So we were like, fuck it. We're going to have our own Slut Walk, and we're going to push it to the front because everybody's telling us that it's not the time and it's not the place. So we're going to make it the time and the place. So we did. We threw our own Slut Walk in December of 2020. Nobody had a job, nobody had anywhere to be. There was no Art Basel. There was nothing going on. So everybody came to the Slut Walk. It was on and popping, the very first one, to my surprise. I didn't know how it was going to be. I didn't know how the reception was going to be. And we were like, well, now we got to keep this momentum going. So clearly there's a need in the community in Miami specifically. This city runs on hoes and drugs. So
Okay, another Las Vegas. I hear y'all over there.
So we were like, we started doing outreach. After that, we were like, how can we continue to build? So we started doing outreach. We started, bringing Narcan and condoms and other resources to the community. And it just sort of grew from there. And then other sex workers started coming into the organization, like, how can I help? And different groups, full service workers, online workers,
Mm-hmm.
strippers, like, all kinds of sex workers started finding out about what we were doing. And they were just kind of like, hey, I'm in Miami, I want to do more. And it just kind of grew from there. And, this year is going to be 6 years that we've been doing it.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, 6 years is wonderful. That's a good start, a good standing actually. 6 years is a long time. You're almost there to 10. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so almost at 10. So hopefully you have a huge celebration for 10.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah. So it has been said that art is an integral part of your impact for Journey, Miss May. And so you're skillfully fuse advocacy with creativity, offering a distinct and competitive perspective that deeply resonates. Where do you draw this influence of art, and why do you feel that it is such an impact, not just on your journey, but as a tool of activism?
Well, I myself, as a sex worker, have always used art on my journey. And I would argue sex work is an art. You have to be an artist to finesse this money.
Mm.
But also, I think art has always been an integral tool for activism, for spreading a message of progress. Josephine Baker, one of the most famous sex workers of our time, she was an artist, and she was using her art during World War II to use invisible ink on her sheet music.
A lot of people don't realize, like, when they think
They
of
don't.
Josephine Baker or they think of sex work in general, they have a misconception. So I just want you to say that again for people in the back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Josephine Baker was a sex worker, and a lot of people don't know that. They actually, and I think that's actually, I think that's actually like something that happens a lot when somebody is a sex worker and then they exit out of it and they become something else, or they become known for something else. A lot of people dismiss that part of their history, because we actually do see that with Marsha P. Johnson. A lot of people dismiss that part of her history, but it was actually, she was a sex worker until the day she died. So, a lot of people go, Marsha P. Johnson was a drag queen. She was a drag queen, but she was a sex worker as well. And she used the money from her sex work to help, pay for the organization that she started to get trans youth off the street. And I feel like that's so important, And Josephine Baker certainly used her skills as a sex worker to finesse getting information from the Fourth Reich so that she could help the Americans and the French resistance specifically to defeat the Nazis. She was in France. She was in France. She was I think she was exiled, I believe, from the Americas, I think. Don't quote me. She was, right? She was exiled, and she was living in Paris, and she was helping specifically the French resistance to defeat the Nazis. She was meeting at the piano bar where she was working. The Nazis were coming into, German soldiers were coming into the place where she worked, and they were spilling some mad secrets. And she was writing those secrets on her arms, on her legs, and on invisible ink in her sheet music. And because of that, they was getting secrets. The French resistance was getting secrets. And that helped the movement. And it was because of a sex worker. And a lot of people don't know that.
Well, yeah, and that also goes back to speak upon the whole thing of what it takes to get a man to talk. It's very easy. Like, it don't take a lot to
It doesn't
get
take a lot.
men to spill secrets, but it's amazing how she could use sex work in a way to free so many people, like most of us do, and most of the people who are sex workers. And it's interesting how we criminalize it. So I guess my question would be to you is too, how does that decriminalization start to look in that process?
Yeah, I think and I think like New York is a really good example because they're really on their way to full decriminalization. They're really pushing for Cecilia's Act to be introduced. Right now they have like what's called a Nordic model where they criminalize the Johns, which isn't ideal either because it removes access, financial access to the sex workers. You can't, how are the sex workers supposed to make money if you criminalize how they make money? Um, but they're on their way to full decriminalization. Um, and I think it's a good question because when we say decriminalization, a lot of people automatically think legalization, right?
Mm.
They're like, oh, decriminalization means that we want to legalize it, which is not necessarily the case. Our community often refers to legalization as backdoor criminalization. So what do I mean by that? So take OnlyFans, for example. I'm a porn star. I've also done escorting. I do multiple forms of sex work. I've done multiple forms of sex work in my life. As a porn star, I have to comply with the multiple forms of age verification laws that exist, right? So I have to upload my ID. I have to provide consent paperwork for myself, for my co-stars, things like that. But that also means that it is a highly regulated industry. So, for example, OnlyFans can decide what type of content is extreme. What is
Mm.
extreme to me may not be extreme to you. It's highly subjective. So, when we're talking about regulating an industry in which we're utilizing services that are from our bodies, that's not an industry that should be regulated. It's not the same as regulating drugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like oxycodone needs to be regulated.
Yes,
That's
it
a
does.
highly that's a highly that's a drug that can kill you if you take too much of it, correct? So it needs
That-
to be regulated because you need to have a certain amount of it that's safe to take. Now, if you see somebody being fisted in a video, that's not going to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? We could argue the mental effects, blah 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 blah. That there is no data that exists that supports the addiction to pornography. Pornography addiction does not exist. That's not a thing. Um, and so it's like these age verification laws, these regulatory laws that exist where we're regulating content, regulating how it's made, regulating how it's uploaded, these things, how we're able to label it. These things are being done under the guise of protecting children, but children aren't even being taught like proper sexual education in their own schools.
Mm-mm.
So, so it doesn't even make sense to be regulating the industry in this way. So decriminalization, all decriminalization does is say, hey, it's not a crime to be a sex worker. We can't arrest you simply for being a prostitute. We can't arrest you simply for doing your job. Oh, you're a prostitute and there's condoms in your purse? We can't arrest you for that because condoms would normally be used as evidence, right? And
Really?
then that absolutely. And that's how they discourage you from using them on the job. And that's how STIs spread.
Wow. I never looked at it from that perspective, but I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. I
Hmm.
never thought about it because in my mind, I would think it doesn't matter. But I can see that. Hmm. That's
Yeah, they
interesting.
use they they use it as evidence and to say, "Oh, you're on your way." Even if they don't catch you in the act of prostitution, they'll say you have condoms on you, so you're about to do it.
Well, I guess I must be a prostitute because I carry condoms in my pocketbook all the time. Yeah, I'm just going. It's just
Same.
it's a part of it. Make sure you got your book, your Bible, your toothbrush, a condom, and a clean pair of drawers. Like that's just, I assume that I will put in my pocketbook. But we do have to take a quick break real quick to pay the bills and keep the lights on and keep the show running. But please stay tuned, people. Come back and join us on Power Beyond Pride because we're having a very intensive conversation about decriminalization sex work with Miss May. And as we go into the next segment, we're going to break it down even more for you. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Power Beyond Pride. I am your host, Mattie Bynum, here with my beautiful, amazing co-host, as he has been told before, the epitome of late night voices or talk radio or R&B storm after hours. But with his mellow sound, he is helping me today to always interview beautiful people. So, Shawn, the next question I think is yours.
Yeah, so Miss May, I want to ask you. So the slut you talked about earlier about the Slut Walk, and so the Slut Walk Miami is to be held on December the 13th, and it was found 5 years ago as an annual educational and awareness event surrounding sex workers' rights. Are you all set for this year's walk?
We are. I mean, we're still we're still putting the little pieces together and everything. Everything always comes together at the last second. You know how it is with event planning. But we're gonna come together. We're ready for you. December 13th is upon us, and I am more than excited. We have our march, we have our after party, nothing better than the after party. So we have our after party at Palace every year. It's a drag bar, actually. So there's gonna be tons of entertainment. This is what I will say is make sure to go to the ATM before you go to the march, get your dollars out, be ready to drop them dollars because Slut Walk is not just about raising awareness, but it's also about supporting the community. So we need to make sure that we drop those dollars on the drag queens because as we know, a lot of drag queens, they're in the community, if you know what I mean. So we need to help them out.
And you take a lot out there in those hills and to be able to perform. So people, it's the same as your bartenders. Please tip your performers. Please
Exactly.
tip your performers.
Make it rain.
Well, that's a different conversation. But yes, honey, we can always, well, actually, let's not coincide together. We can make it rain on some people. You know what I'm saying? Throw some
Yeah.
dollars. Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
It's about spreading the love.
And speaking about love, so we talk a lot about loving and supporting our own community and loving and supporting our communities. And a lot of times we forget that excludes. Like we have what I like to call is conditional love. We'll conditionally love you and support you as long as you are adhering to our guidelines. We will love and support you as long as you are promoting the image we want you to promote. Why do you feel like in that conversation of loving and supporting our community, that decriminalization of sex work is always left out? Why do you think that people shy away from that conversation?
Well, I always go back to something that I heard my sister Camille say. She works at the McKenzie Project. She's a wonderful individual. She led an HIV course a few years ago, and something she said in that course really stayed with me, which was in order to help me, you have to first see me as a human being. You have to first diagnose me as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with sex work, that couldn't be more true, because the thing about sex workers is that they don't see us as human beings, point blank, period. They don't see us as human beings when we're alive, and they don't see us as human beings when we're dead. So there's something called NHI, no human involved. And a lot of people don't know about this. When a sex worker is involved in a crime where she is killed, whether or not she was murdered, what have you, whatever the case may be, that sex worker is labeled no human involved. There is no human being involved in this crime.
Wow.
And I think that sentiment is reiterated time and time again when the sex worker is alive. So take, for example, I was just talking about age verification laws. Those same age verification laws are affecting how we interact with social media these days.
Mhm.
So, for example, social media nowadays is so restrictive. At this point, anything can be mistaken as sexual activity, right? Absolutely anything. This year alone, I have lost 4 social media accounts, and I lost them all in the same day. It was like they came for my personal Facebook account that I've had since I was 16 years old that has nothing to do with sex work. I don't even use it anymore. It just sits there for memories, for pictures and shit. Like, and they somehow correlated my phone number, which isn't even my working phone number, okay, to that account. And they accused me of violating their community guidelines on human exploitation. And I can't get it back. They took my Facebook account because Meta owns Facebook and Instagram, and they also own WhatsApp. I lost access to my WhatsApp account. I can no longer access WhatsApp account. Guess what? Decrim 305 has a WhatsApp community. I no longer am the owner of my own community on Decrim 305. Somebody else in my own organization was given the community ownership.
Oh, wow.
After I lost access. I got access to WhatsApp again because I had to use my husband's phone number. What we've done is created a world in which we dehumanize sex workers over and over and over again because we tell them you shouldn't exist. Anything you do is considered human trafficking or human exploitation. Anything you do is considered this or that, is considered illegal activity. And on top of that, because we are connecting your activity to your real life phone number and your real life activity, now you have to rely on people close to you. And because you have to rely on people close to you, now this is creating a world in which we are making it easier and easier for intimate partner violence to happen. Because imagine, if my husband and I didn't have a good relationship, and I had to rely on him and I had no escape. Now I don't have my own WhatsApp. I don't have my own Facebook. I don't have my own Instagram. So we have created, because of this to save the children bullshit, okay, which starts at the bottom. And what's crazy is like, I'm just hitting the tip of the iceberg, people. This shit is so interconnected. Like, we have created the dehumanization is so interconnected at this point that the sex worker cannot escape being a sex worker at any point in her life. Because let's say she leaves, and sex workers are, of many genders, but I'm using this terminology for the purpose of this story.
Mhm.
Let's say she leaves sex work. Now all this information is tied to her. So she becomes a nurse or what have you. That phone number, that Facebook, that's all still tied to her. So at some point in her life, that's going to come back to her. So there's never a point in your life where you become a sex worker and you never not get to be that like sex worker. You never get to escape it, even if you wanted to.
Yeah. And then that's not just on, and I agree with what you're saying, but even with the public opinion, period. Like, it's like people will never let you forget your past, period. Whatever it is that you're doing, people will never let you forget your past. And I think that's crazy.
It's absolutely insane. Like and then we tell the sex worker, you shouldn't be a sex worker. Be something else. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Da 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 da. So she works her ass off at the club. And then they find out that she used to be a stripper and then she gets fired.
Mhm.
Like, this is crazy.
I always think about, and I know this is probably a better reference, I always think about Big Daddy with Adam Sandler. No matter what the girl did, his best friend's fiance, she was always gonna be the Hooters girl. Like no matter how many degrees she got, how many things she did, she was always the Hooters girl. And I think that's crazy. I think that because the thing about it is, and I hate to make this a man or a woman thing, but I am going for 2 seconds. If a man chose to be a stripper to put himself through law school, do people still go back and refer to him after he becomes an attorney general? Well, he was a stripper. He was a male escort. He put his way through school. No, like we don't do that. So why do we do that with women and other marginalized communities? You know what I'm saying? Because if it was a white cisgender man, like we got a whole president sitting in the White House who has been not accused but proven to be sexually harassing people, but nobody discusses that. Nobody wants to talk about it.
I would like to go back to my Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, actually, because what bothers me about their entire situation is the fact that we quote them on a constant basis. Every Pride, every LGBT holiday, Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, Marsha P. Johnson, blah, blah, blah. But they both died homeless.
Mm-hmm.
And they both died as sex workers. And what bothers me is not only do y'all, not y'all, not y'all,
the other y'all, the other y'all,
the other y'alls, the other y'alls, the community. Okay, they love to quote it. They love to quote it. They love to tokenize it. Okay, they love to tokenize it, but they don't fight for what they were fighting for. That's my shit. Is like, okay, but what was Marsha and Sylvia fighting for though? Because they were fighting for sex workers. They were fighting for sex workers' rights. They were fighting for trans youth not to have to be sex workers in the street. And there's nothing wrong with sex work. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that. But time and time again, what I hear from other Black trans women, right, is this is my only option as a Black trans woman. That's what I hear. Because the media and jobs are denying me every which way to be a Black trans woman, that the only option I have is to go to the street. Right? That's because that's what Marsha P. Johnson had to do. That's what Sylvia Rivera had to do. That's what a lot of Black trans women have to do. That's what a lot of trans women have to do, is go to the street, because we have made it so, just like I explained for sex workers, right? We have made it as a society it is impossible for trans women to have fucking options. Right? And we say, protect the dolls, but the dolls don't got fucking options. Mm-hmm. And here we are denying again and again what Marsha P. Johnson fought for.
Mm-hmm.
We say, oh, she was a drag queen. Oh, she was, da da da. We tokenize and token. Oh, Marsha P. Johnson said this, said that, da 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 da. But again, she died in the streets, homeless, as a sex worker. Mm-hmm. So when are we gonna stop quoting her and actually fighting for what she fought for? That's my shit. When are we gonna stop quoting her and tokenizing her and actually fight for what she did? Because I'm out there twice a month in the streets giving out resources, and it's not enough. It's not enough. It's a Band-Aid. And I'm not saying that because I'm like a good person. I'm not. It's a Band-Aid. It's not enough. And the resources that we have are not enough. These shelters, they're not doing shit.
They're not.
They're not doing shit. Like, it's performative at this point. You know what I'm saying? And personally, I've been at this, like, the organization has existed for 6 years. I've been an activist for 14. I've been a sex worker for 14 years. I've seen a lot of shit rise and fall. I'm tired because everybody uses sex workers as a token. Oh, come here, shake ass at this event. Oh, come here and we'll utilize your body to promote this because we're fighting for our rights. America's on the last line of defense, blah, 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 blah. I'm tired of the bullshit, to be honest with you. You're telling me 7 million people can show up at the No Kings protest, but 7 million people can't show up for Trey Reed?
No, because then they have to actually admit it. They have to admit that people are real, people exist. They have to admit that you are no human. Like, there is a human involved. They have to admit, even when you made the comment, I hear a soundbite coming from that. When are we going to stop memorializing these people and actually fighting for these people that we memorialize? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it goes back to no human involved. If you have to mention these issues, you have to admit that these people are human beings, right? And it makes people uncomfortable, and people aren't willing to have uncomfortable conversations. And so, I know you say you're tired, and you left some thoughts for people to think about when are we going to stop memorializing and start fighting. And so with that, we're going to take a break.
Your mission is vital. Let a great idea help you magnify its impact. As a queer-owned graphic design and digital development agency serving nonprofits, healthcare, and education nationwide since 2015, we're dedicated to growing, empowering, and activating your advocates. Our award-winning work speaks for itself. We deliver transformative change. Ready to see your impact grow? Book a session and let's get started at agreatidea.com. That's agreatidea.com. Tired of the same old advocacy advice? Get ready for a fresh perspective with The Idealist, the monthly newsletter from A Great Idea. We're the queer-owned agency that's been sparking change since 2015. Each month, The Idealist delivers a unique and inspiring approach to advocacy building straight from innovators across the country. Fuel your passion and discover new ways to grow, empower, and activate your community. Subscribe to The Idealist. It's your monthly dose of inspiration. Sign up for free at agreatidea.com/idealist. That's agreatidea.com/idealist.
Welcome back to Power Beyond Pride, where we are talking with Miss May. I am Shawn, Aaron, he, him, his. I am here with my co-host, Mattie. And Mattie, go ahead, take it away.
So I definitely wanted to make sure that we understand that there is a distinct difference. Can you explain to people why sex trafficking is so much different than sex work? And so people can understand why we're asking to decriminalize sex work, not sex trafficking.
Yeah. So it's an important distinction. One is consensual and one is not, right? Sex work implies the work being consensual. Trafficking is not consensual. Now, what I do want to say is that I think it's important to note that as sex workers, when we make that distinction, it's not to say not my baby, not my problem, because a lot of times when sex workers are criminalized, not a lot of times, every time sex workers are criminalized, trafficking victims are criminalized in the same way. Mm-hmm. So when we are tackling legislation that affects sex workers, I absolutely, and our communities do believe that trafficking victims and sex workers should be working in tandem together. So for example, there was a sting in Polk County recently. And if you ever hear of a sting in Florida, it's probably in Polk County. Polk County is the worst when it comes to sex workers. They did a really huge sting recently, and about 45 of those sex workers were migrant sex workers, actually. And a lot of them were actually Asian women. We have a really low Asian population in Florida, but the Asian migrants that are here are highly targeted. As a Chinese Cuban myself, I have experienced this. And so Asians are really highly targeted down here because there are so few of us. They're very easy to spot. So the spas they're targeted specifically. So in Polk County, they did this sting, And what happens is they'll do a sting and say, we're arresting the Johns. We're just here to arrest the Johns, the people who did the trafficking, the harm, whatever. But what happens is they arrest the Johns and the sex workers or the victims. And those victims that they think are, being forced into prostitution, are arrested. And a lot of times, because victims who are forced into prostitution, right? Victims who are forced into this type of labor don't want to go against their abuser for obvious reasons. They will get slapped with a prostitution charge. So there's a TikTok that I made not too long ago where this woman was giving testimony about how she was arrested in a sting, and she was given a felony charge. She has a 2-year felony charge on her record, and she was never able to get it expunged. And she was arrested during the sting, and she was never given resources. And to this day, she's still trying to get away from her trafficker. And even somebody on my board, it was formerly trafficked and is a current sex worker and has a felony charge. So, like, the fact of the matter is, the law does not care to protect victims, and it never has. And this applies to people who are raped, sexually assaulted. Like, our fucking president is a rapist.
Yes, Lord.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, we as a society, the law is meant to reinforce predators. It's meant to protect and reinforce predators. It's not meant to protect and reinforce victims. And that's the fact. So, decriminalization would make it so that not only sex workers wouldn't be arrested, but if crimes happen to them, let's say a John assaults them on the job, they could report that crime. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was assaulted in 2021. I have never been able to seek justice or recourse, because if I go to the police and I tell them a John raped me, they're going to be like, you're a prostitute, we're arresting you. And decriminalization would allow me to report that crime. And then if, let's say, I was a trafficking victim, I could actually go to the police and say, hey, I'm being trafficked.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then also the resources that are being used to criminalize prostitutes currently, or sex workers, would be diverted to actually stopping trafficking, because we are no longer using resources, taxpayer dollars, your taxpayer dollars to arrest people who are just trying to pay their bills.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can use that money to actually go after the quote unquote bad guys that the politicians are interested in. That they say, oh, I write these bills because I'm just interested in getting the bad guys. Okay, well, let's put those resources where it matters.
So basically what we saying, baby, is just start calling it out. Like, if you see it, call it out. Point blank period. That we have to bring awareness to this topic, because it's not so much as about whether it's criminal or not criminal. It's about the safety of our community. It's about to be able to have the choice to do whatever you choose and not just be considered, what was the acronym again? No human
involved. NHI.
No human involved. Like, that's not who we are. Come on, people. That's not us. All right, so Miss May, we are headed into our speed round type of questions. Are you ready to get jiggy with it, girl?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, these questions, don't think too hard. Just say the first. I typically tell people to say the first thing that comes off the top of your head. But if you like me,
penis. Oh, we're not doing it yet.
All right, it's gonna be fun. So Shawn is the first speed round question.
And I think you just answered it without even knowing the question. So the first question is, So the first question is, are you spontaneous or are you a planner?
Oh, I'm definitely a planner.
Okay.
Really?
I'd love to plan. I love to plan. Unless I'm having like a little mentee bee, then, we're spontaneous.
Okay. So what's a funny or embarrassing moment you don't mind sharing?
Oof. An embarrassing moment, funny or embarrassing? Which one? That's the problem.
Ooh,
I have too many to choose from.
you sound about like my life, honey. Which is the
Yeah, I
is funniest? Let's do it that way. Funny.
too many to choose from. Let's see. Okay, so recently I was on a call with a young with southern gentleman, okay? I was on an escort call with the southern gentleman. And I was trying to act, like I knew things because I wasn't used to I'm not a high-end escort, I work I'm a working girl. And yeah, I was trying to act like I knew what, I've heard of things, but I don't, I use Afterpay. You know what I mean? I use Klarna. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so he's like, "Hey, are you hungry? I'm gonna order Uber Eats." I'm like, "Sure, I could eat. Yeah." And he's like, what are you in the mood for?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know, I like whatever you like, baby." So, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm thinking about ordering Nobu."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." Yeah, Nobu, no big deal. Yeah, so then he puts it on his phone and then he gives me the phone and he's like, "Order whatever you want." So then I pull up I start scrolling through the phone. I'm like, yeah, this looks great. Have you eaten here?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've eaten here before. You looking for some recommendations?" I'm like, yeah, yeah, I could use some recommendations. I like whatever you like." And so then he's like, "Okay, yeah, I'm gonna order the Wagyu. I'm gonna order this. I'm gonna order that." I'm like, "Yeah, baby, that sounds great. Whatever." Because I don't know what the fuck. Because I grew up in Hialeah. We eat, well, fucking arroz con frijoles. Like, I don't fucking know what that is. Like, you know what I had this morning? I had ramen and a fried egg. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, Nobu? I was like, "What are you saying to me, sir?" And it's like, and passing me the phone, like, I know what this is. Like, I know what a hamachi is. Like, bitch.
Well, was it
I
good?
was like, and it was delicious, but I was sitting
Oh,
there
that's
like, I
all that
was like,
matters.
this is great. I don't know what the fuck this is. I don't know. Just trying to like, everybody was like, "You played that off well." So I don't
Look,
know if
I
that was
did see you make
embarrassing,
it
but I was
though.
embarrassed.
It's all-
I was embarrassed. I was like sitting here trying not to look like a dumb hoe. I was like, like just like, yeah, I did that notebook before.
Look, just be careful what you confirm and what you agree to. Because I've been in a position too where I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what I thought it was.
Hmm.
Hey, like having the book, like like, and it was funny because I was texting, or not texting. I was in New Orleans, with one of my activist homegirls, and we were like in an Uber driving off, and we're like, "Yeah, one of these days, we're gonna eat at Nobu. We're gonna be able to afford it, like, And then I texted her and I said, "Bitch, I Uber Eats Nobu last night."
Hey, well, now next time if somebody asks you if you had it, you can say yeah and be
I've
telling the
had
truth.
it on Uber Eats. On Uber Eats.
So the next question is, what is one thing you would like to achieve in the next 5 years?
Money, riches, another, actually eating at Nobu inside.
Not going to
No.
any restaurant.
No.
Now you
I said,
now you're
yeah.
really into it.
Yeah, no, I said, no, yeah, I'll go inside this time. No, what I really want, this is what I really want. What I really, really, really want is to have, for Decrem to have its own rec center. Like I want to have my own like community center, and don't nobody steal my idea now.
It's in patent already. Don't take it.
It's I'm either putting this out to the universe that it's going to happen, or someone's going to steal my idea. Let's take a risk. So yeah, no, I want to have my own community center. My goal is hopefully there's a big funder on here, some other sugar daddy who's listening and is like, yeah, Miss May, I want to invest in that. I want to be able to have a space where sex workers can be housed, where they can have job resources, where they can have exit services. So if they're like, you know, I'm tired of being a hoe, I don't want to do this shit no more, but I don't know what I can do, I want to be able to have options for them to be able to have, like, you know, we would have like in the premises, we would have like job resources. So it's like you can learn how to be a barista, you can learn how to bartend, you can build your resume, you can learn how to be a social media manager if that's what you want to do. Like, you know, we have options. I want to be able to like have childcare on the premises, and like, you know, I just wanted to be like fully equipped for sex workers' needs so that they can come there and just get on their feet, because it's so hard to get on their feet. And then I also don't want it to be this thing where it's like, you know, everybody has to have like, you know, certain rules or whatever stipulations because things have to be a certain way. But I also don't want it to be this thing where it's so confining to sex workers. Because one of the things that's so important, the number one thing that's important to a sex worker is flexibility. You know, flexibility in your schedule is like king to a sex worker. So I just, you know, that's like my goal.
Flexibility would be a key qualification in that
Yeah,
line
because
of
that's
work.
like the hardest thing for a sex worker acclimating to a normal job is the fact that these normal jobs can't accommodate flexibility.
Yeah. Most
You know?
definitely. All right. Well, that is a beautiful goal. So any backers, any sugar daddy, anybody out there that
Sugar
wants to,
daddy, if you want
that's a
to.
beautiful thing. So 2 more questions. Do you have a spot to watch the sunrise and sunset? Or a favorite spot?
Oh. Well, I'm not up that early, or I don't stay up that late. I'm kind of an old lady inside. Always have been. 85 years old inside.
Okay, so yeah, living your
I go to
dream.
bed by 11 o'clock at night. You know, I've been very lucky in my youth where, you know, everybody wants to see me at like 7 a.m., 8 a.m. So like the earliest I get up is 6. So I haven't seen a sunrise in years. If I'm being perfectly honest.
Ain't
What's
no
that
wrong.
like?
Well, it is honestly one of the most, I would say for me, is one of the most common things, but you never know. Hey, to
What's
each
that
his
like?
own.
Maybe I'll find out one of these days.
I've never seen one either because I'm a late riser. I get up at 10 a.m. so I'll never see a sunrise. So I'm with you with that.
Yeah.
I wanna ask you, like, the last question is, what does power beyond pride mean to you?
I think it means for me actually seeing the needle move. Like one thing I don't like to hear what I want to hear. I like to see what I want to see. You know, like I don't like pandering, you know? I don't just want a seat at the table. I don't even want a mic either. I want to see the action. I like movement. Like I'm not a bullshit kind of person. I can tell like somebody's bullshitting me right away. I'm a very vibes person. Like, I don't know if y'all believe in magic and none of that, but I do, like I believe in my ancestors are whispering to me all the time. And, when I meet somebody right off the bat, I can tell if they're just saying what I want to hear, or if they're actually going to help me, or if they're actually going to move the needle. You know what I mean? And so that's what it means to me, is like power beyond pride means are we doing this or what? When someone's like, I'm in my 30s, I don't have time to be hooking up. Are we doing this or what? That's how I feel about activism. I'm like, are we doing, I'm not getting any younger. Okay. Are we doing this or what? I'm not doing this or what? Because I know that like somebody I'm in community with, her name is Terry. She's in her 60s and she has a trans child and she doesn't fuck around. I love Terry. She's like, I'm not fucking around. I'm in my 60s. I have a trans child. I'm not getting any younger. I'm fighting for them. She's like, I'm fighting for them. I'm not fucking around. And that's where I'm at. Like, and I'm not even in my 60s. Okay.
Well, I think that power beyond pride would be an action statement. So I like how you look at that. It's more about you see the action in it, not so much as the words, but can your walk match your talk is what you're saying. I get it.
Yes.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, Ms. May, I want to thank you. I do apologize. We're out of time today. So that means you got to come back so we can keep having these wonderful conversations, because I think there's so much more for us to talk about and to relate.
I'm just going to have to come back. Oh,
yes,
no.
Ma'am, you have an open invitation anytime to come sit with us and join us. But real quick, as we are finishing up the conversation, where can people find your socials at? Where can people support you in the movement?
Yes. Well, you can find and support Decrim 305 on any platform, Decrim 305. That's DECRIM 305, like decriminalize, but for short, 305. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. We take Cash App, EBT, Snap, all that.
All the forms of donation.
All the forms of payment, and then you can find me, Multiverse of May everywhere. That's like, if you've seen the Marvel stuff, I'm very into Marvel. So that's the Multiverse of MEI.
Okay.
So Multiverse of May, MEI, everywhere on except Facebook. I don't do Facebook. Obviously, they took my shit. So, but I'm on Instagram, X, all that stuff. And I'm on Pornhub and all that stuff. If you feel like taking a look, I do get royalties. So you are supporting me for free, but I do make a dime off those ad revenues.
All right. Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, I am your host for this afternoon, Mattie Bynum. I am a comedian, actress, and always like the loudest one in the room. And you can follow me at Instagram. My socials are going to be Mattie Simone 737. And then on Facebook is Mattie Bynum. And I did mention on one of the episodes that I have a TikTok. I don't typically use it, but if you want to go look at the 5 videos that are posted, by all means, go look at the 5 videos that are posted on my TikTok. Yeah. And Shawn?
And I'm your co-host, Shawn Aaron, he, him, his. And you can find me on most socials as Them Boys Inc. And also my personal page, Shawn Aaron 81.
And remember to subscribe and get all your friends and family to subscribe to Power Beyond Pride on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And check out our site, Power Beyond Pride.
Power Beyond Pride is a project from A Great Idea, a queer-owned design and content agency. Learn more about them at agreatidea.com.
And this episode was produced by our wonderful Shane Lucas and I, Mattie Bynum, and the project developer. Our editor is the amazing Jared Redding, and he is always supported by the utmost wonderful person that you'll ever meet, which is Ian Wilson.
Yes, and we are both part of this podcast awesome host team, and we invite you to send in your questions and comments at powerbeyondpride.com.
Check out our new episodes each week, and we look forward to queer change making with you next time. Thank you once again from all of us here at Power Beyond Pride.
Hey, this is Shawn, Aaron, he, him, his, and I'm here to tell you about Them Boys Podcast. I'm the host of Them Boys Podcast, and as a Black queer trans man, the podcast amplifies the voices of other trans men of color as we share our transition stories. The podcast not only amplifies the voices of trans men of color, but it raises awareness and conversations around our lived experiences. You can listen to the podcast by going to themboys.org/podcast. That's DEMBOIS.org/podcast. I hope to have you join us on the next episode.
Community organizers, are you ready to unlock new levels of impact? A Great Idea is offering a fantastic collection of free downloadable tools, helpful white papers, and so much more. As a queer-owned graphic design and digital development agency empowering change since 2015, we're dedicated to providing you with the resources you need to grow, empower, and activate your communities. Discover insightful knowledge and practical tools to enhance your work. Explore A Great Idea's free resources today at agreatidea.com/insights. That's agreatidea.com/insights.
Have a great day.